Hello ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, this is Lightspeed Brothers, channel committed to give you all things video games and movies, and today I, Lightspeed Brother Nick, will give my opinion on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And so, what a better way to start than at the very beginning. The opening sequence of Jurassic World was, in my opinion, really unsuspected, and a great way of paying a little tribute to the original Jurassic Park, since it focuses on random characters in the rain struggling with dinosaurs. I was intrigued the entire time and felt the tension only the Jurassic series can give, the feeling that at any moment a T-Rex can come out of nowhere and cause chaos. And well, let's talk about the tension and the action only the Jurassic series can give. The sequence on the island was a surprising joy to watch. Owen recovering from paralysis while lava was inching towards him, while Claire and Franklin had to escape from their locked-up location while a dinosaur and lava are both factors trying to kill them, was a really great sequence. It felt as though the filmmakers really wanted to take their time on the scene and actually build up the tension. This sequence in no way felt rushed, and I felt as though that really paid off. Even though these were main characters, I still felt worried that they were going to die because the tension was just built up so well. This leads into an awesome escape sequence with tons of dinosaurs running around, and the main character is not only trying to escape from the lava, but also the carnivorous animals who are out for feeding, which was a great touch. Then you have perhaps even a more tense sequence than the one shown before, with Owen trying to break Claire and Franklin out of an device underwater from the original Jurassic World. And he even goes up for a breath since, they're underwater, which was another great touch. I was waiting for that the entire time, and it showed me how much effort and thought that was put into this sequence. It was an all-around, really inventive sequence, and I think that's the best word to describe all these action scenes. Inventive. While the action scenes lack the weight of the action scenes in Infinity War, I can't deny the fact that they are so much better than the ones found in Black Panther and Ready Player One, mainly due to their inventiveness. Start with the first action scene, which was a great homage to the original Jurassic Park, and then you have the one I just mentioned, which was filled with tension and creativity. And then Owen, Claire, and Franklin still have to get off the island, which leads to a really awesome scene where they have to get into a truck to get onto a boat that is leaving the island. And then after that, while not a direct action scene, Claire and Owen have to get blood from a T-Rex to get Blue stabilized. He's losing blood. This was a really inventive scene, and sure, it didn't feature a lot of guns and explosions, but because it was so slow and meticulous, the tension was really focused there. And that's the best compliment I can give to these action scenes. They feel really focused. Jurassic Park's action scenes were never about big explosions and guns, which I feel as though was really missed in Jurassic World. But in this film, a lot of the action scenes are really indirect action, which made me kind of disappointed when Owen went around destroying everyone in hand-to-hand combat. It was just really lazy because the whole film was really focused on making these scenes that weren't, these bombastic action sequences that actually had thought into them and wasn't just a bunch of guys punching each other. And so that was really disappointing. But then after that, you have another great sequence with this new not T-Rex, but new dinosaur and Claire, Owen, and the little girl. I mean, this was brilliant because in the last Jurassic World, it was a lot of guns in the finale, a lot of, dinosaur fighting, but here it shows the actual struggle that humans would have escaping a dinosaur. This is barely any guns, barely any of the humans fighting back, using nothing but their wits to escape this dinosaur. It was once again filled with tension and another really creative action scene. So for the action as a whole, this was a fantastic film. You just don't see the amount of creativity found in these action scenes in other blockbuster films. It was a great time. But with that said, action is not the only part of a film, and we gotta talk about the story. The story of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, in my opinion, actually starts off really strong. Seeing Jeff Goldblum show up not only had me laughing since I couldn't stop thinking of his encounter with the T-Rex in the original Jurassic Park, but also got me really interested in what would happen if this scenario came to be. And the scenario I'm talking about is that of making the decision whether to save these animals or not. It's an actual thing that would happen in real life, and I love that the film showed this aspect because it would without a doubt happen. And while I would absolutely let all the dinosaurs die without question, there are compelling parts to both arguments. Why let a whole species go extinct if we have the power not to? These are animals. We would save an island of dogs, why not them? On the other side of the argument, there's the fact that these animals are capable of extreme harm, and the past has shown that humans aren't capable of controlling this harm. Is the fact the volcano is erupting in the first place a sign that we should let them die? Why should we try and play God again? These are all arguments brought up in the film, and it's endlessly fascinating. Not to mention, we also see Claire is running an organization dedicated to help these animals as they attempt to get funding. Of course, there's the debates in the U.S. government. I love the amount of world building here. There are so many little things that they added that would without a doubt happen if the situation occurred in the real world today. Because of the film showing these aspects, I couldn't help but smile the entirety of the first 20 minutes or so of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. It was fantastic. Unfortunately, I also think this presents the biggest problem with this film, its tendency to dabble in everything. All those aspects are contained in the first 20 minutes and never touched upon again. Personally, this film would be so much more interesting if it focused more on the debate between keeping them alive or not and the moral dilemma that it brings. But instead, it's only shown for a little bit, and the plot turns into a typical stop the bad guys from abusing this type of power movie. And it feels so painfully predictable and generic. From the second I saw Mills, the bad guy, I knew he and everyone working for him would turn on Claire. So it just turned into a waiting game until it actually happened. And after it does happen, like I said, now it's as boring as Owen and Claire have to warn someone about this whole operation. It's just not an interesting premise at all. You're not really necessarily interested if the characters succeed or not because they're just not that interesting, likable, or relatable. And Mills isn't even like this huge bastard of a villain, so you don't even care if he fails. First, let's start with Franklin. Franklin could be much, much worse. But still, not a single one of his jokes land, and when you're an awkward and cowardly character like he is, and you aren't funny, you're not going to be likable in the slightest. Zia is a typical bull-headed doctor who is about as interesting as a loaf of white bread. Every line she says is so cringy, and she, like Franklin, turns into another character who's just sort of there. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard have incredible chemistry. They are a great couple, one of the best of the decade, and every scene they're in features great banter and shows growth for them as a couple, but unfortunately not for them as individuals. Owen doesn't really develop any sort of character arc. Sure, you could say that his decision to help the dinosaurs shows that, he's not really selfish anymore, but the fact of the matter is, you see with the videos when the raptors were children that he's always been a lover of these animals and always put himself at risk. These animals would attack him and try and bite him, but he still would help them and nurture them. Sure, Owen is still likable, but his superhuman acts of strength prevent him from being relatable at all, and his lack of development prevent him from being interesting. As for Claire, she may not be relatable, but she is likable and does change throughout the film, changing from a person who puts the dinosaurs first to a person who still loves the animals but still sees their unrestricted capability to cause chaos. Her decision to not press the button that will let them go into the wild was a great sign of character development, but there's one problem: her screen time. Once she recruits Owen, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom does not really have a set protagonist. You don't feel as though Owen or Claire are there that much at all, or are at least doing important things for their characters until the finale. It's another aspect that shows how sloppy and half-hearted this film was. I personally would have loved to see Claire as the main character in this film, but I feel as though the producers were too afraid of putting her first instead of Owen, which was a huge mistake because really, she's the most interesting in the entire film. She's the one that really has an arc. She should ideally be the viewers. Most of us would love dinosaurs and would want to keep them alive, but eventually would come to the realization that if given the choice between setting them loose in the world to live, or protecting the world by allowing them to die, we would choose the latter. She has a really complex moral dilemma. She constantly struggles with it, and it's really interesting. She should be the balance in all of us, while Owen represents the part of us that knows these dinosaurs need to be killed, and the girl represents the immaturity that comes with being in awe of the dinosaurs. Yet, once again, Jurassic World never wants to go all in on making Claire the lead and having a solid arc, but rather just makes her along for the ride most of the film. I think that's a good analogy for the characters in the film, getting on a roller coaster. They decide to get on the ride, or in this case, go to the island, and that's good. But from then on, they just sort of all, ride the roller coaster out. They're really passive and things just happen around them, like how people go on a ride. Just like how one decides to go on a ride again or not, the main quad makes the decision to kill the dinosaurs at the end of the film, which was a great character decision, but once again, you have two throughout the entire movie. This structure makes the characters lack any real depth, since they only make two choices which really define them in the film. For that better middle part, they're just sort of there. And let's talk about the little girl. I think the actress that played her perfectly encapsulates the awe of seeing dinosaurs as a child, and the sadness of a loved one dying since her grandfather dies. She's a great actress, and I would love to see the work that she does in the future, but is given really poor material to work with. Like Owen, Franklin, and Zia, she doesn't really have an arc, and she's not really likable or relatable. And really, what purpose does she serve? Her whole ordeal with her grandfather Mills could have been omitted, and the story really wouldn't have changed drastically for the other characters. In fact, it probably would have been better, since Owen and Claire would get more screen time. And in the finale, I think it would have been personally more interesting if Owen and Claire were just trying to escape the new dinosaur instead of the little girl. Her character just feels very contrived and only put in so she could be used in a sequel. As for her being a genetic creation, I thought it was a cool twist, but it unfortunately made way for the most awkward line of dialogue in the entire film. She saves the dinosaurs in the end and says something along the lines of, "They're real, just like me." That pokes a hole in the entire Save the Dinosaurs argument. She and the other dinosaurs aren't real. They're made from things in a bottle and a computer, so it's awkward and contradictory. It ruins the entirety of the Save the Dinosaurs argument and anyone who is on that side. It was just a whole wreck, just like her character. You know, this whole genetic creation stuff, they probably shouldn't have made that a twist and established it earlier, because it doesn't feel focused on it all, and it should be. That would have related into the whole argument thing, because shoving in that line of dialogue at the end of the film just feels lazy, and once again, I feel as though that she was only put in so this whole argument could be had in a sequel. The dialogue itself in the film is pretty bland. I mean, I like how there were less jokes, but the jokes that were there felt really forced and unfunny. And for the rest of the film dialogue, while there could be compelling arguments about these dinosaurs, it felt as though that was really only in the 20 minutes. The rest of the dialogue just feels plot-driven, not really driven by the characters themselves. The only great pieces were from Jeff Goldblum at the beginning and end, and Claire talking about the first time you see a dinosaur in her cell when she's trapped by Mills. That was a really great piece. The music is fantastic and adds a ton of tension to the scenes, but at the same time, isn't overused, and the visuals are fantastic. The part at the end where Jeff Goldblum is talking about how humans could become extinct with the dinosaurs integrating themselves into the real world was actually surprisingly haunting and got me thinking of a really interesting premise for Jurassic World 3. Think of the dinosaurs all as zombies. It's like a zombie breakout. And Jurassic World 3 would be more of this horror film than a destruction film like I know it's going to be. It's going to be another boring, generic action destruction film. It's going to be like Godzilla. And I really don't like that at all. It's not going to result in anything spectacular. There's going to be a happy ending at the end of it all, and there's just a lot of lost potential there. And I think that really sums up Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom for me. Lost potential. What you have here is a film with great world building, really fun, inventive action sequences. Hell, there's even a part in the movie that's kind of heart-wrenching, where you have to see the first dinosaur any of us ever saw in a Jurassic Park film die getting swallowed by the lava. The music and CGI is great, but for everything I just mentioned, you have the little girl, who is really contrived and takes away from the real characters, Owen and Claire. You have really weak villains. The new characters are not interesting whatsoever. Even the returning ones, Owen and Claire, lack a true arc and feel as though they are meaningless as they are shoved from one situation to the next. Omitting the girl, focusing on the dinosaur argument, and putting the spotlight on Claire would have, in my opinion, made the chances a lot higher for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom to be a great movie. But as it stands, it's just another okay action film that has really great sequences, but everything else is pretty mediocre. This is something we definitely don't need. This is just another passable movie, like I felt as though Ready Player One and Black Panther were. It's just been a really weak year for movies so far, and with this being the halfway mark, really, we're 6 months in, it doesn't look like this year is going to get any better. So, my final verdict for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is a 6 out of 10. It's an okay film. I suggest you go watch it just to get an opinion on it and to see the great action sequences, but you're not getting anything else from this movie. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.